In January 1720, the most powerful financial official in France, the man in charge of the money of Europe's mightiest kingdom, was a convicted murderer. Sentenced to death in London, escaped from prison, still legally a fugitive. And here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. The money sitting in your bank account right now works the way it does because of what this man did 300 years ago. He ran the experiment first, on an entire country. His name was John Law, and his story starts nowhere near a bank. Edinburgh, 1671. Law is born into a family of goldsmiths, the people who stored other men's gold and quietly discovered they could lend against it. He grows up around ledgers, but by his 20s, he's in London, and he's not interested in ledgers. He's tall, charming, expensively dressed, and addicted to two things: gambling and attention. Then, April 9th, 1694, Bloomsbury Square. A quarrel over a woman becomes a duel with a dandy named Edward Wilson. It lasts one pass. Law's sword goes through him, and Wilson dies where he falls. The trial is quick. The judge is Salathiel Lovell, famous for exactly one thing: hanging people. The verdict? Murder. The sentence? Death. 23 years old, sitting in Newgate Prison, waiting for the rope. And then, he's gone. The records are conveniently vague. Friends, money, a window, a wall. Someone helped. All London knew was that the condemned man had vanished across the sea. A murderer, a fugitive, a dead man walking. Remember that, because in 20 years, France is going to hand this exact man its entire economy. For the next 20 years, John Law does something strange for a fugitive. He gets rich, slowly, and in public. Amsterdam, Venice, Genoa, Turin, every gambling table in Europe. And Law almost never loses, because he isn't gambling, he's calculating. He can run the odds of a card game in his head faster than other men can count their chips. The casinos of Europe become his salary, but the tables are only half his education. In Amsterdam, he studies the Dutch, the most sophisticated bankers on earth, and an idea starts forming that will follow him for the rest of his life. Gold, he decides, is the problem. A country's trade shouldn't be chained to how much yellow metal it happens to dig up. Money is just a tool for exchange. So why not paper, issued by a national bank, expanding as the economy grows? He writes it up. He pitches Scotland, rejected. Savoy, rejected. France, rejected. For 20 years, every government in Europe says the same thing. Interesting theory, but nobody hands their money to a convicted murderer. Then, in 1715, the Sun King dies. Louis XIV leaves France gloriously, utterly bankrupt. And desperate countries stop asking about your past. France's new ruler is the regent, governing for a king who is 5 years old, and he inherits a kingdom drowning in debt from decades of war. The treasury is empty. Faith in the coinage is gone. So when his old gambling acquaintance John Law proposes something radical, the regent listens. May 1716, Law opens the Banque Générale. It issues something France has never trusted before: paper banknotes. And Law adds one masterstroke: the notes can be used to pay taxes. Instantly, the paper is worth something to every single taxpayer in France. It works. The notes trade. Commerce speeds up. 2 years later, the state takes the bank over, and it becomes the Banque Royale. Paper guaranteed by the king himself. Then comes the second machine. Law acquires the Mississippi Company, holding a monopoly on trade with France's vast Louisiana territory, a wilderness he markets as a paradise of riches. And here's the mechanism that ties it all together. You can trade France's old, nearly worthless government debt for shares in the company. The state's crushing debt converts into stock. The stock is bought with law's paper. The paper is printed by law's bank. One man now controls the debt, the money, and the market. What could possibly go wrong? In January 1719, a share in the Mississippi Company costs 500 livres. By December, 10,000, 20 times higher in under a year. Paris loses its mind. There's no stock exchange, so the trading spills into one narrow street, the Rue Quincampoix, and it becomes the most frantic place in Europe. Nobles sell estates to buy shares. Servants speculate their way past their masters. One story claims a hunchback earned a living renting out his back as a writing desk for traders signing contracts. The crowds grow so violent that soldiers clear the street at night. And France needs a brand new word for what's happening. A person worth 1,000,000 livres. Millionaire. The word in your language today was invented on that street, in that frenzy. At the center of it all stands John Law, now, by most measures, the richest man in Europe. Mobs don't attack his carriage, they worship it. And in January 1720, it becomes official. Law is appointed Controller General of the Finances of France. Stop and look at that. The man legally sentenced to hang in London now runs the money of Europe's greatest power. It is the single greatest comeback in financial history. It will last 11 months. Here's the flaw buried in the machine. When share prices wobble, Law props them up by printing more banknotes to buy shares. More paper chasing the same goods. In one single year, the money circulating in France nearly triples. Prices in Paris double. Bread, rent, everything. The smartest investors see it first, and they quietly cash out, swapping paper for gold coin, loading it onto carts and moving it out of the country. Law feels the leak, and in February 1720, he does something you've seen before on this channel. He bans gold. No citizen of France may hold more than 500 livres in coin. Police search private houses for hidden gold. Sound familiar? America did this in 1933. Law did it 213 years earlier, and it backfired instantly. Because when a government has to force you to hold its paper, you finally know, for certain, that the paper is worth less than it claims. In May, Law tries to let the air out gently, cutting the share price by official decree. Paris erupts, riots in the streets, runs on the bank, people crushed to death in the crowds, fighting to turn paper back into coin. The carriage that Paris once worshipped is torn apart by a furious mob. By December 1720, shares have collapsed back toward where they started, and John Law slips out of France in disguise, carrying, by one account, 800 pounds and a single diamond. John Law dies in Venice in 1729, broke, living on borrowed money, still writing pamphlets insisting the system itself was right, that only the execution had failed. France disagrees, violently. The scar runs so deep that for generations, the French avoid even the word banque. Paper money becomes almost unthinkable there for the better part of a century. And the financial wreckage, the ruined families, the shattered trust, feeds the slow instability that will eventually help bring down the French monarchy itself. So, Law lost, completely, utterly. Except, look at your wallet. No gold behind your money. A national bank issuing paper, a currency that expands with the economy instead of waiting on mines. Government debt woven directly into the money itself. Every single piece of Law's machine, the exact system that destroyed France in 1720, is now the standard operating system of every economy on Earth. And most historians today land in the same place. He was right, in theory, just 300 years early, and missing only the one component the world has bolted on since: brakes. So the dead man walking won the argument after all. It just cost him everything, and France, a century of trust. Which leaves the real question. If his system runs your money today, What exactly are our breaks made of? If this story earned it, like, share, and subscribe to Curious Black. I'll see you next time.